Our last panel is going to be focusing on how we will explore AI and ML technologies that are reshaping insurance by significantly improving customer interactions, personalizing policies, enhancing the efficiency and claims processing process. So our panelists for this session are from Safaricom, Hillary Murefu. Please come forward. Please give him a hand as he joins us. We have Bente Krogmann from MTek Services. Please come forward. We have Harrison Muiru from Smart Application. Please come forward. Give him a hand. And we have Martin Kiarie from SolvIT. Ah, there you are. I was wondering whether you're in the room. Karibu sana. So guys, thank you so much for joining us. Martin, since you're right next to me, first of all, I don't know this other business you do, because the business I know you for is not this one. But more importantly, I think you're in the insurance space. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about how SolvIT is using technology in asset valuation and claims processing from an AI perspective.
Yeah, so allow me to deviate a bit.
Okay.
Because, as I was in the room, I was, evaluating who the audience is. And I noticed quite a lot of technologists, so I thought, and other people who are not too technology-based. So I decided, let me go a different way. So before I tell you what we do, I'd like to go into our idea of why we should even care about AI. And the thought is, I don't know who has ever heard of the Maginot Line. Has anyone ever heard of something called the Maginot or Maginot Line? You've heard about it? So that is, so France were fighting the Germans in World War II, right? And so the Maginot
very dangerous
ground, and the Maginot Line was they invested $9 billion in today's money in building a wall with bunkers and mines and weapon ammunition, etc. Right? And then what did the Germans do? Does anyone know? They went around the wall. And they defeated the French. So, the goal here is that as you're thinking of AI, it's good to discuss the technology, but don't get too high on it. Focus on what's the problem I'm trying to solve, and SolvIT, that's what we did. We looked at what's the problem we're trying to solve. And for insurance companies, it's confirmation of the existence, condition, and ultimately the value of assets. And I can go into the detail of how we do that later, but I want to share that.
Okay, great. Smart Application. Please tell us more about yourselves and what you're doing from an AI standpoint.
Thank you, and indeed, thank you for having me. Smart Applications, it's a very interesting time to actually be in this kind of conversation, because just delving into a little bit of history, just like my co-panelists did, but not anything to do with France and Germany. I'll steer close away from that. We came into the market around 2005, introducing electronic fingerprint identification technology, a technology that had been around for about 6 years, since 1999. And across that time, we have worked with various insurance companies in automating the payer provider space, and have indeed seen catalyzation of technology and adoption of various technologies in this space that have introduced efficiencies, eliminated fraud, and digitized what was otherwise laborious paper-based processes. Now, if you look at that timeline, technology that was adopted or rather invented across 1999 and introduced in Africa around 2005, we're talking about 6 years. ChatGPT came into the space in November 2022. And here we are, just short of about 1.5 years later, talking about its adoption in Kenya. So I think we need to clap for ourselves, because I believe the insurance industry is changing in terms of its closer attention to technology and intentionality to change and adopt such emerging technologies for purposes of efficiency. So what we do is we work with insurance companies and the industry to look at how we can promote sustainability through technologies that make your work easier. And AI is right at the center of it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for that elaboration. Bente, but I'm so glad we have a lady on this panel. Yeah?
When you're starting with a German and a French, and I'm sitting here as the German, I don't know how I should... No, but I won. Right? And that's why we're here today. We want the insurance ecosystem to win also in the AI space. Yeah, what are we doing at MTek? Maybe as a small introduction, we are obviously a platform as a service, and we are being challenged a lot of times that we are obviously working with insurers, distributors like bank assurance, intermediaries, and so on. And when we started looking at specifically AI, which I believe is the topic in the overall context of technology we are here for today, our challenge has been that AI is actually being used in the whole value chain. You know, when you are looking at risk modeling more on the reinsurer and underwriter side, who we are working with, who are more focusing on that. We are looking at data forecasting. We are looking at claims management, which was being touched on, and then obviously really on the customer care part. So one thing I'm always lobbying for the lack of a better word, is depending on the organization you are in, don't try to climb Kilimanjaro in, I don't know, how long does it usually take? You know, I've never done this. 3-5 days or something like this. Don't try to climb it in one day. Really decide for your organization what is at the core of your value chain, and then look what is available. Because otherwise, take it to the bank, you will fail. Yeah. So, and we are trying to guide as a platform what should be your focus on in that regard.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Hillary, I think Safaricom is known to all of us. And of course, we've experienced some of your AI deployments, including the chatbot. But I'm really keen to understand, you know, to what extent and in what areas is Safaricom using AI, and sort of what sort of impact has that had on the business?
Okay, so thank you for that question. So in Safaricom, how we look at AI is we've kind of bucketed things into 3 larger groups. So you have monetization bucket, you have productivity and efficiency bucket, and you have a customer experience bucket. And what we try to do is across the life cycle of how we engage with our customers, how we engage with our partners, how we engage with internal partners as well. At every single step, we see what is the greatest value that AI can create. And from experience, what we've learned is the biggest thing, people talk about AI a lot, but the biggest thing that people miss is the measurement of the impact of AI. So if you miss that part, then you end up missing, not knowing what it actually creates. So from our perspective, we across the whole life cycle, across all levels of interaction with our customers and partnerships, we use AI at different stages. Yeah.
So, I mean, again, because you're Safaricom, I always have to ask these questions. And I heard your numbers today were quite impressive. I think the first 1 trillion, is it 1 billion? 1 billion, yeah? So give them a hand. Safaricom is doing extremely well. 100 million, huh? Okay, great. So I want, you know, one of the things we're trying to do with these conferences and events, I think, is we're trying to bring this thing from the abstract and the rocket science perspective of what AI is to the practical execution. I think as we go to the next round of questions here, I want to talk about practical execution. Can you give us maybe 1 or 2 instances that maybe customer service, maybe analytics, things that, you know, our audience would appreciate to kind of think like, huh, that is interesting. Safaricom did that. Maybe we can do that. Is there anything that comes to mind that maybe we can share with the collective here?
So in terms of examples, I have many examples. You can sit here and talk about examples. But one of the main ones is, from a security perspective, you can imagine Safaricom has almost 50-something million customers, right? That means we have to protect the customer's data, but we also not only against like being hacked or anything like that, but against other customers as well. I'm sure you've heard of social engineering and someone withdrew my M-Pesa and all this. So we've built models and these models are helping, especially with that very specific reason. So initially we had so many customers complaining about it, and we set a target of reducing those complaints by 95%. And how you achieve that target is just go baby steps. So the baby steps were, at least from our perspective, we have a large big data and AI organization. So skills and resources is not a problem. So how you start is you start from a very basic point of view where you create controls, so processes and controls without even AI. So you create processes and controls, you put them in place. After you create the processes and controls and put them in place, you start experimenting with different levers from a very processy point of view. Then gather enough information, and this information is data, and then you end up knowing, oh, these are some of the patterns that come through when people are social engineering other people. For example, one of the main ones is someone calling you and pretending to be from Safaricom, and they try and swap your line. So from a very specific point of view, when someone tries to swap your line today, they'll not be able to swap your line because there are algorithms that we've built in the background that try and understand, oh, in your circle, from a circle perspective, is this someone who's ever been close to you? From that perspective, is it someone who's close to you from a distance perspective? You cannot be in Nairobi in 2 minutes, and you're swapping your line in Eldoret, right? So from a very specific point of view, in the fraud space, I think there's been a lot of impact.
That's fantastic. And the thing about it, I think that's interesting, is that at the consumer level, you don't even know it's happening, but you are protected, and AI is actually playing a significant role in your customer experience, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the pressure is real from a regulatory point of view. From a customer perspective, when customers complain, they look at them from an individual perspective. From our side, it's both the customer and the regulation. So we have to always be at the forefront of securing the customers.
Okay. Let's come back to you, Martin. First of all, I want to know about this business, what it does, because I know you're doing some other things. But more importantly, tell us more about SolvIT, and to what extent and in what ways are you using AI?
So SolvIT is a valuation company. We assess vehicles. And one specific use case that, I realized, I thought I was in the business of valuing companies. I'm actually in the business of turnaround time. Because when an agent or an intermediary or an insurance company asks you to go and value a vehicle, what they want is to process the premium and the car very quickly so that commission can be paid out, premium is, the customer is onboarded. So there's the accuracy part of it that's expected, but the differentiator becomes turnaround time. Now I realized, and this is where we are using AI, because for us, we do about 300 plus cars a day. And so if you have human, people looking at each report, assuring that it is accurate, you can imagine the turnaround time will be really slow, or the resources would be, quite expensive. So currently we're using AI to support the calculation of the valuation of the vehicle based on the database and data set we already have of about 200,000 plus, 200,000 plus vehicles. And so we don't need a lot of human intervention in the calculation of the valuation, and also the notification of damage, identification of damages or etc. on the vehicle. So what that allows is, the insurance company, the intermediary, to get paid quicker. We realize we're in the facilitation of payments by making sure the report, not only is it accurate, but it comes on time. So that's
So basically faster, better outcomes.
Absolutely. Cheaper as well.
Cheaper as well. That's great. What about the smart applications perspective? How are you guys using AI, across the business, and specifically maybe areas like analytics to enhance performance?
We're using AI in a number of ways, and I want to speak about our application, which is a customer touchpoint, and how we're using and leveraging AI. One of the things that we realize is that there's a need for information to change customer behavior, and having moved into the smart virtual access as a tool of access, we've adopted AI technology to be able to provide recommendations on topics of healthcare interest, so that our consumers, based on their patterns of spending, are getting information that is relevant to actually help them lead healthier lives. And this is the first point that they come into contact when they are about to have a healthcare visit. Through that, it means that we are promoting better lifestyles, and therefore preventing people from actually claiming or rather ending up in a claim situation, which is driving up the cost of care, and definitely then leading to the loss ratios that we are seeing in the business. The other thing that we're doing is essentially around operational efficiency, is on analytics, looking at claims trends and insights. And one of the areas is collaborating with the Association of Kenya Insurers, AKI. And part of what we've done is to be releasing reports which are published in the AKI magazine that are able to then advise various stakeholders around the trends and patterns. And we're doing quite a bit of further enhancements in that within our next round of reports that will be able to provide more predictive insights that will then guide insurance in terms of interventions that they can then do. We're also looking at the claims processing aspects in terms of automating a level of inherent straight-through processing through use of certain rules driven by AI agents that are then able to look and qualify claims when you look at certain perspectives of diagnosis and treatment guidelines. A lot of that is hinged around quality of data, and therefore one of the fundamental key points that we must ask ourselves and drive as agendas within the industry is the quality of data and standardization of the same. And I'm glad that even the government is looking at how we can adopt certain policies in this regard so that we have an easier and more efficient and way of processing data and accuracy of the same.
Thank you so much. I didn't even know smart applications does all that stuff. You know, the kind of things that you're doing, very impressive.
Thank you.
Bente, I know you guys are doing a lot of stuff. We've interacted quite a bit recently.
I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing, though.
No, it's good, it's good. And as the only lady on our panel, of course, I want to give you as much time as you need if you want to tell us everything. But yeah, I'd just like to know a little bit more about, again, just from that perspective, you know, practical application, maybe some interesting use cases, maybe some highlights where you've seen significant impact as a result of what you're doing with AI. I think especially for our audience so that they can really appreciate what's possible.
So first of all, when we started really embarking on the journey of AI, I asked my team for a budget. As much as we are a fintech startup, you know, we are working with a budget. And it gave me around 5 months of sleepless nights because it is important, and our AI team is structured into product, service, and customer care from that perspective, so we can really service all the stakeholders on our platform. So when we are looking at product, we are really looking with underwriters, and I know Saurabh was here in the morning, at profitability and risk pricing, right? How can we get to better pricing per product? How can we make it sustainable? And how can we use AI to automate and just make it bulletproof to a certain extent? When we are looking at service, our team specifically, but Martin is the expert on that. When we are taking motor, I'm sure when you have Martin here in a year from now, he's going to tell you, I'm taking a picture of a car and I'm going to tell you how much it costs to repair it. And that technology from an AI perspective is available. The interesting part here in Kenya, for example, also the spare parts suppliers have API integration. So once he's bringing it, you will see a significant change in this market because it will really just take a picture. It will, and it's available in markets in Africa, it will come. So I'm waiting for him that we are reading in Business Daily that this is going to be launched. And I think this will be a game changer, and I'm going to be your cheerleader on that, because one of the biggest loss-making parts in the industry, and like Jack was saying 2 hours ago, we need to be value-driven in everything what we are doing is on the claim side and on the servicing side. When we are now looking at customer care, we are in the industry of trust, isn't it? When people are placing in insurance policies directly with underwriters, with brokers, with agencies, with whoever they want to place who's regulated in the market, they are trusting them either with their health or with their assets. And we have to stay true to that. So I think the biggest difference or big difference which can be done is on the customer care side. What we are providing to our partners is obviously from the more simplified side chatbots, which are running 24/7. You touched on it on the Safaricom context. It is available in insurance. It's actually quite a simple integration you can do. It's something I would start with. If I would start from a customer care perspective, then recommender systems. You know, insurance, the problematic part is we need to sell a product at the right time to the right person. at the right price. It's a critical thing. You know, if I'm not selling you X today, I can sell you X again next week. In insurance, if I'm missing you this specific, if Julia is missing a life insurance today, the next chance she has is next year, right? So the recommender system in terms of right product, right price, at the right time is super important, and you can get through that through behavioral data and again risk data, right? And then last but not least, I would start with that is things like predictive churn, right? But I would not do that as an MVP. You know, again, climb the Kilimanjaro in 5 days. Don't climb it in you will get, you know, you will get sick. You know, you need to be picked with a helicopter, medical insurance. Start slowly, build an MVP, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So phase 2, phase 3 would be churn prediction and, you know, more marketing-focused initiatives.
Great stuff. So I'm going to come back to you again from the Safaricom perspective as we sort of start to come to the wrap-up of this. And I think for me, one of the things I love about Safaricom, I always feel like I want to know what's next. You know, Safaricom is such a market leader on so many levels, and when you're thinking about AI and what you're doing there, you know, what are the future trends that you're seeing? What are the ethical considerations that you might see as a challenge? And possibly that famous phrase nowadays, sustainability, because also AI, as we're learning, uses a lot of energy. So how is Safaricom looking at those three facets going forward? And then we'll sort of go through each of those questions individually again.
I think I'll tackle the ethical and the sustainability first. From a sustainability point of view, what we believe in is if you're creating value, if you're using AI to create value, then that should kind of be sustainable. If you use AI because it's the buzz, because it's the new thing and you have to use it, then it will never be sustainable, right? So that's kind of the ethos there. And then when you talk about the ethics and everything around data protection as an example in AI, you have to have I think someone had mentioned earlier, you have to have the right team. So from a Safaricom's perspective, we have not just a data governance team that is huge, we also have a data protection team. So having a data protection team, having a data governance team, and having all the data scientists, all the data engineers trained on all the laws and regulations that they have to make sure they follow. And on top of that, having standards and frameworks so that if today I'm building, like she talked about a recommender system, if I'm building a recommender system, I have to follow a specific standard and guidelines that Safaricom has put in place that has been approved by not only the AI team, but also the data protection office and the data governance office. So, and the audit office as well. So there's no way of me doing something that ends up being unethical. And then on I can't remember.
The trends.
Oh, so in terms of trends, what we are seeing is, I'll give you a very funny example. I'm sure everyone has interacted with Zuri. At some point, when we were building Zuri, we started from a very traditional perspective, and we saw value, and we keep iterating through. But what has happened now is we want to move away from the kind of traditional chatbot into using agents. I'm sure you've heard about agents where you have multiple small LLMs and multiple tools doing very specific things. So you can talk to an agent, and that agent knows you completely, and every day you talk to it, it gives you what you exactly need.
Were you here this morning?
Sorry?
Were you here this morning?
No.
There was a demo of a Gen AI agent, and it talks to you in a Kenyan accent.
Yeah, that's
and
really
it renews your policy. Yeah,
yeah.
And it was a demo.
Yeah, so in terms of trends, that's what we are working towards. And in the very near future, you'll see we'll relaunch Zuri. She'll have an avatar, a very Kenyan face, and a very Kenyan accent as well. Fantastic.
Looking forward to that. Bente, we'll come back to you again. Trends, the future, sustainability, and ethics.
No, I already told you the trend is coming. It's going to come from Martin. Trends, I think we are just at the start. So I think the trend is going to really go to full automation, you know, and full prediction, and in all areas. And that's the amazing thing about insurance, right? It's still a kind of open ocean, what do you say in English? Now the German in me comes through, blue ocean, you know, there's so much we can do. So I see a lot of, the biggest impact I'm going to see with increased customer trust generation through AIs, through personalization. So I think that will really go in the next 12 months, 24 months to the forefront, and on claims processing, assessing, fraud detection, etc. Your other part was about sustainability and ethics.
Yeah.
I'm always recommending in any tech area, go for the highest regulation you can find, because the regulations are going to come. It is very hard to be in an environment where the regulations are not yet 100% set. Yeah? And where they are still being developed, because you need to be always that one step ahead on things. At MTek, we've gone for GDPR compliance, which from the data protection side. Now on the AI side, maybe one of the gentlemen can say, but I'm not 100% sure what's going to come on the pure regulation side. So we are always orientating us on the worst case, which is the best case scenario. It's a little bit of a conflict, and that is what I'm recommending to everybody. And again, there is a responsibility in technology. Technology is an enabler, and this enabler has a lot of power. So anybody who touches lives with technology needs to be aware about that and take that very serious. And that, I think, is the reason why I would always go for highest regulation you can find, as painful and sometimes absurd that is.
So what you're saying is almost self-regulate before you're regulated.
Yes.
So to speak.
But when you do that, you also have the opportunity to be part of regulation, which is coming. We just launched a product in, I hope it's okay I'm saying that, in Rwanda, where that really acted as one of the pilots also for the government to establish regulation, right? Let's not only put regulations on the shoulders of the regulator. They need the market players in their different kind of functionalities to also guide them what is feasible or not. And when there's an opportunity for publication, and especially in practical terms, I think that is the best thing which can happen, right? And guiding that. Sitting on the sideline and complaining about regulation is very simple, huh? Again, we Germans know how easy it is to complain about everything. You know, we are the biggest complainers probably. But participate and lead by example. And I'm saying that off the record. You also sometimes rather want to apologize for doing something than ask for permission.
I love that saying, take action, then beg for forgiveness. I think that's what it is. Great stuff. Harrison, tell us more. What are you thinking about the future, sustainability, and ethics?
I'll start off with the issue of ethics, because I think in Africa we have a very contextual issue around the fact that we have an abundance of labor, and yet AI is coming into the fore to reduce jobs. And therefore the question that we have to ask ourselves as institutions is, are we upskilling our institutions, our people? Are we investing in them so that they have the right skills for these new jobs that are emerging in the wake of the AI shift, as we are seeing now the catalyzation happening in the 5th industrial revolution? The other ethical issue is on biases, essentially knowing that a lot of the LLMs and other AI tools are coming from beyond the continent, and therefore they are not contextualized to the African setting. And therefore we have to take the forefront as champions within our industry sectors on how we can adapt to these models. Like what has been said by AWS, Huawei, and Google earlier on, in terms of giving us the opportunity to develop our own models, industry-specific and continent-specific models. The other issue I'd like to mention around the issue of ethics is just a simple question, even as we get off from the learnings today. How many of us are in institutions that have an AI use policy? Just by a show of hands.
What is that?
An AI use policy. Yeah? Because we are, even in our jobs, having our peers, our colleagues, our staff members using AI to one level or another. And therefore, whilst we are looking at AI in the broad context, we need to start at home. We need to start with what are our people doing around AI. Is that email that you received this morning about that customer generated by an AI tool? And what are you doing as an institution around creating your own AI use policy? In terms of the trends, I see a lot of hyper-personalization and hyper-automation. Definitely in the field of healthcare, we're looking at borrowing some of the elements we have seen in the motor space, where we now have underwriting being done at a per client level. And the question is, AI will be the defining moment where we definitely have medical insurance policy that are written at an individual level, based on your trends, your insights, and a lot of machine learning that has been generated by data about you as an individual. And also now on the claims processing space, and a lot has been mentioned by my co-panelists, so I will not belabor that. In terms of sustainability, and my question here is, rightfully so, to the big tech guys who are enabling us. We really need to Africanize these prices, because when we look at scale, beyond that chat GPT that we are doing to Google, when we look at scale, really the prices are quite hefty. We're just doing some numbers with Ezekiel there, and we said to analyze 1 hour of video, we are looking at 700,000 bob expenditure, looking at some of the figures that were mentioned by somebody here on the stage in terms of tokens. So if you're looking at the number of people you could employ for 700,000, then you realize there's a disconnect. And probably this is a challenge for us to come together as an industry and have conversations with the technology players as yourselves to look at the context of Africa. We are young in the journey, but indeed they say the future is Africa. So if you can invest more in terms of enabling us, then probably we can have a higher uptick.
Fantastic. Those are excellent insights. Martin, I'm waiting with bated breath for yours.
So, starting with trends, I won't talk ethics, but anyway, so starting with trends, for me, it's not really about the technology, it's about the industry. I find it interesting that something Kenyans, Africans desperately need has such low penetration. The rains right now are an example. The number of people who should have had home insurance is just surprising, especially in Runda. So it's not an affordability issue. So for me, it's about, not using technology to sell more of what people don't want, but making them want what they desperately need. And, I think that's the future that really excites me. And the role we play there is really to foster a trustworthy relationship, because actually the biggest tension is trust. So it's about fostering that trustworthy relationship between the asset owner and the people who have a relationship with that asset, be it the bank, be it the insurance company, etc. And I'm really looking forward to how us making that more transparent, more trustworthy, enables people to have this desperate thing that they need so that they can be protected in times that are uncertain. So that's the thing that excites me. Now, in terms of sustainability, allow me to tell a story, because I love history. In the beginning, there was spice. Who knows the spice trade? What was it? Was it the Indian? What was the spice? Silk Road. The Silk Road, right? And what was the prominent thing most sold on the Silk Road? Who knows? It is there in the name. It's spice, right? Then people bought it for flavor, etc., but they also perceived it as a preservative. Because when meat goes rotten, like we eat in some restaurant, and they put a lot of spice, can you tell? You can't tell. So people thought this thing is preserving bad meat. And so they used to use it for preservation. Then a man called Frederick Tudor, who was named the Ice King, discovered that if he puts ice on meat, it preserves it. Then what happened? The ice trade took over the spice trade, right? Spice was still being used for flavor, but a lot of people who were using it for a preservative now stopped using spice and started using ice. Then Frederick Tudor, if you Google him, he was wealthy. Selling ice was a big business. Then there's a guy called John Gorrie who decided, wait a minute, I can make this, this ice, and invented the refrigerator. Now, Do not be the spice trader. Do not be Frederick Trudeau. Do not be John Gory, who now, by the way, John Gory has been disrupted by what? Fast food. You don't need a fridge anymore. You can just order quickly, right? So really, really, and my call to action for people in the industry is focus on the need, the problem you're solving. Like I said, my problem is turnaround time, not an accurate report, right? So really focus on the needs so that you don't have to be high on the product. You can allow yourself to pivot, because technology, there's quantum computing, there's biodegradable plastics, there's gene technology, gene engineering technology. Like there was blockchain, now there's AI, there'll be another thing. But if you're focusing on the technology, you won't focus on being relevant to the person you're building it for. That's what I wanted to say. Thanks.
That almost sounds like this statement that he said about digital transformation, that focus on what you do, the business, but use digital technologies and tools to change the way you do them. Yeah. So I don't know whether we have anyone in the audience who might want to have a question or two. I'm sure you guys are warming up for your cocktails. Yeah? Okay, silence is consent. So thank you very much to our panel. Much appreciated. That was awesome. I think you've heard it from all of them, the different perspectives on this. But more importantly, I think the call to action is that AI is cutting across everything. It is going to touch everything. It's not just about a chatbot that gives service. It's about analytics to understand what works. It's about predicting how to service your clients better. It's about innovating your products and services, as we saw earlier today with the demonstration with the Gen AI agent. And most importantly, I think, historically, insurance has always been seen as a space that's always a little bit behind when it comes to adopting technology. But I honestly think, as somebody who's worked on the internet, I think now for over 25 years, there's never been anything that excites me as much as AI, because it feels like a complete reset of everything that we know. And that means it presents a lot of challenges, but also a lot of opportunities. But thank you very much to our panel. Much appreciated. Please give them a hand. And I think we'll close there. And the gifts and the photos, we can wrap up.